Not necessarily.
Your dad had sex with my mother, and I'm a product of that.
Have you lied to her about her father? How did it feel to learn that your daughter was sleeping with your very good friend?
See, now we back to loosey-goosey, which didn't get us anywhere in the first place.
Now this wasn't her first time coming to the paternity court. She had been here before. Guess what? The initial reason that brought her here is the same damn reason that she's here again. Some people don't just learn. I hope you guys are ready. It's gonna be one traumatizing show.
Ms. Kavanaugh, you appeared in our courtroom previously and tested 2 men as potential fathers of your 1-month-old son, Malcolm.
Yes, Your Honor.
Unfortunately, neither turned out to be his biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, today, you believe Malcolm's biological father is a good friend of your mother's, the defendant, Mr. Spence.
Yes, Your Honor.
I hope you guys are ready to hear some of the most shocking things to ever be said. Miss Kavanaugh was no good girl, trust me. She had been quite mischievous. This time around, she didn't just get intimate with any random guy. She got intimate with her mom's friend. She has some serious balls, trust me.
Ms. Kavanaugh.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your mother's friend?
Yes, Your Honor. I know how bad it sounds. It is bad. I started calling him up, asking for like rides, to the grocery store, to get stuff from my house. And like subconsciously, I was try to seduce him. I was wearing inappropriate things around him.
The things Miss Kavanaugh said would make a priest want to go to confession. They were beyond this world, believe me. Mr. Sense, on the other hand, didn't sound convincing when defending himself. I mean, do you just randomly sleep with your friend's daughter? Hell no!
How did you end up being in the position you were sleeping with your really good friend's daughter?
It was like she said, came over a couple of times. She was in inappropriate gear. First time, I shunned it off. Second time, I said, hey, watch yourself. Third time, it's starting to look good. Fourth time, lapse in judgment, and here we are today.
Listening to everything that pops out of both their mouths was really uncomfortable. But let's proceed, shall we? I mean, there was 1-month-old kid involved. These two really do need some counseling.
So as you look at Malcolm, do you see Mr. Spence, any resemblance?
I see a little bit, but from being in court previously, I found out that you can't always go on looks at all.
When you found out you were pregnant, did Mr. Spence's name come to mind immediately?
No, Your Honor.
Moving on! When Miss Kavanaugh found out she was pregnant, Mr. Spence's name did not pop up in her head as the potential father. Damn! Apparently she wasn't just fooling around with him. I would definitely give her an ass whooping if she were my child.
I thought Mr. Bowles was the dad. Well, after the court, I started thinking, well, he could be a possibility that Mr. Spence is the father. And I texted him and I asked him, when was the last time we had sex? He told me it was the end of October.
And when was Malcolm born?
He was born July 9th.
Miss Kavanaugh's mom took the stand, and oh boy, did she have a lot to say about her daughter and her so-called friend. She said she noticed the eye contact they gave each other when they met. Deep down in her heart, she knew something was gonna go down.
You did?
Yeah, I knew my gut
woman's
told-
intuition.
Exactly. So I questioned each of them. They each denied that anything had happened. Then basically how I found out, one day Megan was angry with me and we had kind of a little tiff or whatever. It was kind of a big tiff, but when we did, she blurted out that you were right, and I did sleep with Ken.
The courtroom was filled with nothing short of shock. The most insane revelations start to surface, and these two had a lot of explaining to do. Another epic blockbuster takes the stage. Mr. Spencer happens to be married. I knew this guy had some secrets. He was willing to be the father, but he sure had doubts.
Why exactly do you have doubts?
My doubt is, first of all, it was only once.
The window of conception that she described.
I'm
Baby
there.
born in July.
I'm there, yeah.
So you
I'm
within
in
the
that
window of conception.
I'm in
You
that
don't
period.
dispute that.
That I do not dispute.
All
That's
right.
why I'm here.
Right.
That is why I'm here.
Do you have any knowledge as to whether or not she was sleeping with other people during
Yes.
that time?
Yes, she told me.
Well, the suspense is finally over, and the hassle of who the dad of their child is about to be revealed. It's been a bumpy and funny ride with Mr. Spence and Miss Kavanaugh. All eyes are on the judge as she unleashes the truth.
Mr. Spence, you are not his father.
It's okay.
I know this isn't where you wanted to be.
It's okay.
After finding out she had a terminal illness, Miss Holshoe seeks to uncover the true identity of who her biological father is, only to find out the most shocking surprises on her journey. It's one roller coaster to the next in this episode. Let's dive right into it.
Miss Holshoe, you claim your mother had an affair with the defendant's father, and today you're in court to prove that he is your biological father. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Miss Howard, you and your sisters say Miss Holshoe is a delusional troublemaker whose promiscuous mother destroyed your family and ruined your home.
Now things get really heated in a matter of seconds. It felt like they all hated themselves from their previous lives. Apparently, the alleged father had passed away, but his daughters for sure weren't going to welcome Miss Holshoe with open arms.
Mr. Howard both told me that he was my father, and also family members on his side of the family have also said that I'm his daughter.
And
And also I'm in the obituary as his daughter.
You are.
Yes, I am, ma'am.
That was a big mistake that her name was put into the obituary. Our father's sister did that.
No.
And did not tell any of us about it. Our father didn't even mention her.
Nope.
Miss Holshoe found out she had a real dad in the most awkward way. Trust me, your mind isn't gonna believe what you're about to hear. Her stepdad and mom were having an argument. Boom! The bomb drops, and she can't believe what she hears.
How did you find out?
Because my stepdad was drunk and he was fighting with my mother, and he said, well, who do you think your father is? And so after that, my mother told me, and she took me and introduced me to DL, and we had a relationship from then on.
Now the sisters for sure weren't going easy on Miss Holshoe. They felt she was an imposter who was trying to spoil their family's name. They stood their ground and denied every single thing Miss Holshoe said in the courtroom. Trust me, it was quite a show.
To contact with Miss Holshoe.
Yeah.
How old were you all when this meeting happened?
I was 19 at the time.
So you remember this day?
Oh, with clearly, like it was yesterday. They were sitting in a booth with my dad across from her and her mother. I was standing at the end, and he said, I just brought you guys here to let you know that she's your sister. And that was
Really?
the one and only time that my dad ever mentioned her till the day he died.
Some really interesting stories started to fly around the courtroom. Everyone was trying to air out their minds and beliefs. In the process, some nasty revelations jumped out. Trust me, they weren't nice, and some of it was just super fishy. But Miss Holshoe stood her ground.
We had packed up our things and moved out because my father had gone to at the bar where her mother was working and caught her cheating on him. That gave me
No topic.
the thought that obviously her mother probably has no idea who any of her children belong to.
Really? It's not my fault you guys don't want to know me. It's not my fault that your dad had sex with my mother, and I'm a product of that.
The courtroom was pretty heated up at this point, with both parties throwing shades at each other. Another of their sisters walks into the courtroom. Surprisingly, she's on Miss Holshoe's side. She believes that there is a chance that Miss Holshoe is her sister. Now that's interesting, wouldn't you say?
What is your opinion?
I believe that she is.
You do. Tell
Yes,
the
I
court
do.
why.
Because my father told me that she was.
She just needs a family, Your Honor, because her whole family,
She
she's
did.
shut out. They've shut her
No,
out
I've
because
shut
she's
them
such a
out,
devil.
Your Honor.
Tell me about that moment when you were informed or your father told you.
Well, we were out one day, and I was about 19, and he said that he wanted me to meet one of his girlfriends.
Now she had quite a lot to say. Not only did she back up Miss Holshoe's claim of being their sister, she also said their father was no saint. He was also messing around with another woman. Wow.
Miss Holshoe's mother had been sleeping around, had a reputation.
Yes.
And
As
so they
did he.
didn't believe it.
As did he.
Oh, we
That's
don't.
why
Our,
I don't believe
our
it.
dad
We
is all
don't
of our
deny
hero.
that our father slept around.
He is our hero to this day. And I'm not going to bash him, but yes, he loved women. And that's just the way it was. Some men hunt, some men don't.
The tension was palpable, but no worries, because the moment of truth was here. Time to spill the beans on whether she was really his daughter or it was all a joke. All eyes were on the judge as she got ready to give the final verdict. Cue the mic drop.
That the probability of half-siblingship between Diana Howard and Misty Lynn Holshoe is 98.1%.
Looking Looking at his face, you could tell he had been through the worst days of his life. From having a manipulative girlfriend to thinking he may or may not be the father of the girlfriend's son, this man has been on a journey of roller coasters, trust me. I hope you're ready. Your minds are about to be blown.
Proving to your boyfriend that he fathered your 7-month-old son, Kahari. You testify that his paternity denial is tearing you apart. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Thomas, you claim that after finding pictures of Miss Yancey and the baby with another man, you are convinced you are not Kahari's biological father. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So, Miss Yancey, tell us why this court date is so important.
Well, it's important because, we've been
Living in denial of being the father of their child, Mr. Thomas is determined to find out who really owns the kid in the picture. Now, don't think their story didn't start off as a love story, because it did. But I guess not every love story ends up with the princess having her Prince Charming and a perfect family.
You don't know if you're gonna stay or you're gonna go. Where are you at with this?
Right now, Your Honor, it's hard, you know, because I do love her and all. And throughout the whole relationship, we always talked about having a child together. But, you know, now it's like we're at a point where it's a child, but I possibly might not be the father. It kind of hurts, so.
And Kahari is 7 months old. And you worried about, is it your baby?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oops! Now there's trouble in their little paradise, and it looks like everything is hanging on the line. The trust issues start to spiral into the relationship, and things start to fall apart with both Mr. Thomas and Miss Yancey seeing different people. An open relationship now? Well, I didn't see that coming.
us just not being pretty much truthful with each other. And
Yeah, and even, like she said, even at the time, we were both seeing someone, we were still seeing each other. So it wasn't like...
well...
Were you broken up or were you together?
More like friends with benefits.
Yeah, well...
But were you also dating and sleeping with other people?
The tension starts to build. They start yelling at each other, and it turns into a total mess. We broke up, but we didn't break up. It wasn't a serious breakup. You still needed me on and on and on. Even the judge has to shut them up at some point. If you ask me, these two definitely need a therapist.
If you're in a relationship with somebody,
we weren't in a
you don't go
relationship,
and
like-
give another man a ride and not
But I
bring it up.
thought y'all said you all were broken
Right,
up.
exactly. When we were breaking up,
That's not
to
correct.
me, I felt like we were over.
If we were over-
and I told him that multiple times.
If we were so
we're
over,
done.
you
Don't
would-
call me. Don't come to my house. Do not disturb me. Leave me alone.
Things get pretty cozy, and Miss Yancey finds out she's pregnant. I know what you're thinking. Could it be for Mr. Thomas? Or could it be for one of the guys she was hanging out with while on a break? Well, hold your breath. You're in for a surprise of a lifetime, trust me.
Mr. Thomas, take me to the time you found out Miss Yancey was pregnant. When did you find that out?
We were sitting at my mom's house, and, you know, she came and she said that she took a pregnancy test and she's pregnant. And I'm like, you know, I was happy for the simple fact that over the years we were trying to conceive and have a baby. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, yes, it finally happened. And then after she told me, she left and texted me that the baby might not be mine.
Boom! Miss Yancey drops the bomb in the courtroom, going on about how baby daddy might not be the dad of the kid. I bet you didn't see that coming now, did you? Tension starts to rise again, and things aren't looking pretty anymore.
Even though you sent that text back and said it might not be your child.
Yes, I explained to him that, you know, I was skeptical.
And even though she was skeptical, you know, she told me, and I had my doubts, but at the same time, it was like the 50% chance it is mine. I don't want to have the son, you know what I mean, born in this world without being there for him. So regardless, I stepped up and
Right, as you
you know,
should.
chose to be there for her.
Like the good guy Mr. Thomas is. He was there for Miss Yancey and the baby. All he wanted to do was be a good daddy, but was his heart crushed? Well, I guess we'll find out soon. The emotions start to rip open through his mind. He has himself throwing questions in his mind. Is this baby mine? Does this kid really belong to me? I tell you, he is in troubled waters.
You come with emotions, you know what I mean? I'm happy, I'm like, you know, it's about time. I see him and it's like, he's a handsome young man, but I just don't feel like he's mine.
Why? Who did he look like?
He looked like his mother.
So what's wrong with that? I mean, it's a new baby. She's the mother.
Hey, yeah, and it's true, but you know, it's this thing I used to say, like, if it looks like the mother too much, then it might not be the father or something.
Oh.
Now all hell breaks loose. Baby daddy goes through her phone and finds out she's been texting another guy, saying that could be his child. Now that's just insane. Who does that? Mr. Thomas's mind comes down like a glass shattered into several pieces, with all doubts looking like a reality.
When do you start doubting again?
We had took a trip to Fresno to go visit family, and I ended up going through her phone, and I noticed that she has pictures with Kahari and the other man that could possibly be the father.
Why were you taking pictures with the other guy, Miss Yancey?
My mom looked at him and she told me straight up, I don't think that that's Maurice's son, and I think that you should get in contact with his biological father.
Well, it's finally time to unveil the truth after so many lies and deceptions. The day of reckoning is finally here, with everyone itching to know the truth. Are you ready to find out? I bet you are. So take a deep breath because here it comes.
Mr. Thomas, you are not the father. I'm very sorry.
It's okay, Your Honor. It's all right. I mean, I still love her and I still love him at the end of the day, but if she wants a father-son relationship with Kahari and the other man, then I feel like there's no need for me to try to build.
Miss Seaton dragged her mother to court because she believed her mother committed paternity fraud. Apparently, there was no trust between Miss Seaton and her mother, and she was desperate to know who her real father was. Are you ready? I bet you are. Let's get on with it.
Miss Seaton, you've brought your mother to court because you claim she committed paternity fraud and lied to you about the identity of your biological father. You were raised believing one man was your father, but are here to prove another is your dad. You've petitioned the court for a paternity test to finally prove the truth. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
It felt like Miss Seaton and Miss McPeak, who happened to be her mother, shared almost no love at all. Miss Seaton claimed she had not seen her mother in almost 5 years. Damn! That's a really long time to go without seeing your mother, trust me. She even called her a liar.
Well, Your Honor, I just want to start by saying I haven't seen her talk to this woman in 5 years, almost 5 years. The reason that I haven't seen her talk to her in almost 5 years is because she's a liar. I was raised to think that a man named Jesse Seaton was my biological father. He signed my birth certificate, he cut my umbilical cord, and he was awesome. I have since found out that there was another possibility that Mr. Bryson could be my father.
You could see the tension between the two ladies in the courtroom. Being that they haven't had any relationships in over 5 years, they couldn't even maintain eye contact with each other. Trust me, that's just really sad. I wouldn't want to be in those shoes.
So my grandmother and my Uncle Paul had both donated blood for the blood transfusion, and it came out that they were not. Either one of them wasn't a match, so they couldn't give me the blood.
Why do you look like she's not telling the truth, Miss McPeak?
It's untrue.
How do you respond?
Because she's a liar. She always has been. She does whatever she can to hurt anybody. She doesn't have a heart at all.
But is she lying about the hospital saying there's not a match?
Yes, she is.
Miss McPeak wasn't having any of that. She stood her ground and said everything her daughter was saying was all in her head and there was no truth to it. She hit the nail on the head and called her a big-ass liar. Damn!
Statement from Karen Hutchins.
Karen's never liked me. She's just as big a liar as her granddaughter. Plain and simple. She never thought that I was good enough for her son. He could have had DNA at that time, and he didn't want DNA. He said he was 100% sure it was his. And ever since Jessica's been old enough to talk, maybe kindergarten, she's been nothing but an habitual liar.
Now, Miss Seaton was just talking out in the wind. She was firm. She listed instances that made everyone doubt if her mother was actually telling the truth. Trust me, you wouldn't believe the things that were said in that courtroom. They were mind-blowing. Oh, come on. What exactly are Miss Seaton and Miss McPeak playing at? What exactly is their aim here? They're just going round in circles, calling each other liars. At this point, it's really hard to believe who might be telling the truth.
Mr. Bryson and your daughter about a DNA test, Miss McPeak?
No, everything she just said is a lie. Not one time ever did I tell her that we had DNA. That's a lie. Not one time ever did Greg Bryson even ask if it was his child. If I was not willing to have a DNA, I wouldn't be here today.
So, Ms. McPeak, I need to ask you, how close in proximity were you intimate with both of these men?
Now Mr. Bryson walks into the courtroom, and he believes he is really Miss Seaton's father. He doesn't just believe he is her father. He has some really powerful statements to back up his claim. Oh boy, this was one hell of a paternity case, trust me.
Mr. Bryson, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple questions for you. Do you believe you are Miss Seaton's, Jessica's biological father?
Yes, I can guarantee you, Your Honor.
You do?
Oh, yes.
Why do you believe that?
Look at her. She looks like my other daughter. I guarantee you, the money I got in my pocket, she's mine. Secondly, the grandmother, Jesse's mother, told me she was between the ages of 6 and 10, that she knew that that was my daughter, not her son's.
The moment of truth was finally here, but the air was thick with uncertainty as to whether their stories and claims were true or not. Time to see what the future holds for them. I hope you guys are ready.
The biological father is Mr. Bryson.
Thanks.
Okay. Just hug your daughter.
Okay, honey.
You can stay with
What
your
did
daughter.
you lie?
This was completely traumatizing. These two brothers came to court because they had some real doubts that their uncle might actually be their father. Trust me, guys, it's a really crazy roller coaster. I hope your seats are locked in.
Mr. Ellis, you and your brother have brought your mother to court today because you say you've always believed the man in this photograph is your father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then, just recently, you learned that your biological father may actually be your father's brother. Mrs. Shivers, you confessed that you slept with both your ex-husband and his brother.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
and
Now, Miss Shivers, who happened to be their mother, was one hell of a mischievous woman. She had a husband who she was intimate with, of course, then went on to sleep with his brother. Who in the world does that?
Came up to me and said, you know I'm your son, you know you my son, right? You know, so.
Yeah, it was basically like a family get together. It was a family function. You know how people get when they, indulge or whatnot. I guess he overindulged and the truth came to light, so he approached my brother.
It's not the truth.
Well,
Believe whatever you want to believe.
okay, we're leaving the door open. Believe what you want to
open
believe.
it up.
Assume what you want to assume.
Yeah.
He assumes Ronnie's his dad.
Now, the crazy thing was that Miss Shivers did admit to being intimate with the two brothers. She was blaming it on the fact that she was lonely and had nowhere to go. Yeah, right. Like that makes any sense at all. I'm pretty speechless right now.
We got intoxicated. We had a one-time thing, and that was it, which was a big mistake, Your Honor. But,
I mean, things happen.
I had nowhere to lay my head, and we grew up together. We're best friends. I did what I had to do to keep a roof over the head for this one, for Eugene.
You know what? My mom did everything in her power and her will and everything to take care of us.
Now, one of the brothers did admit that he noticed some really funny actions from his dad before he passed. I promise you guys, your ears aren't ready for what you were about to hear. These guys had one messed up family.
Unfortunately, we had to take a trip down the road, and my dad, my father, he wrote me more than he did my brother, you know what I'm saying? And you don't do that if that's your child, you're supposed to be there through thick and thin like my mom, I heard from her every day of, that place or that situation, but when we were in that situation, he didn't reach out to my brother at all, not really at all.
Now, the craziest thing happens in the court, and it will leave you speechless. One of the brothers believes that his dad isn't his uncle, but here's where the shock comes in. His mom says, hold up, you might be wrong. There might be another man who is your father. Well, I told you, these guys have a really messed up family.
do you feel there are reasonable, credible doubts as it relates to Eugene as well?
Yes, Your Honor, maybe so. What? Well, you want to hear it, I'm going to tell you.
You ain't never said that before.
Well,
And I asked you who's my dad.
John Ellis.
You said John Ellis. So now it's a
There he is.
possibility somebody else might be my dad.
Well, you got
Come on.
tested, son. We're going to bring it out. We'll bring it all out. I'm telling the truth, so let's bring it on out. Whatever my babies want to know, I'll let you know.
I didn't know that.
Now let's get Uncle Dad into the courtroom. Mr. McClellan walks into the courtroom to give his side of the story. Well, guess what? He actually believes he is the father. Ain't no mind games here, people. It's starting to really look insane. Miss Shivers had some explaining to do.
And they came back to Chicago and lived with me. And while they were living with me, she said we only had sex once. She must have meant we only had sex once sober. You hear me? That's what she must have meant, Because she can't even remember the first time.
But you remember.
Oh boy.
No more details needed.
Okay.
Another truth bomb hits the air in the courtroom. Miss Shivers had to be one crazy woman, trust me. She says that aside from the two brothers she got intimate with, there was a possibility that another man was in the picture. Oh my God.
Cool breeze. I met him when I was waitressing in the restaurant, and he ran a big hotel. And he also, gave me jobs and stuff. That's when Eugene was like about 4 or 5. We had a couple of little nights, where we had a few drinks and we did have intimacy. He died.
About time we draw the curtain on this paternity showdown. Will it be a double dose of daddy drama, or will the clouds of uncertainty finally clear? The key to the truth was in the envelope. Here goes nothing.
John Ellis is your father.
I knew that. Look at me. Look at him.
Okay.
John Ellis is your father.
I would get Alice.
I needed that. You hear me? I was getting ready. Sorry, Mom.
It's all right. I told you boys the